Good afternoon and welcome to the Land Management Panel. Managing our lands to protect pollinators and build resilient farms, rangeland, and cities. Pollinators and other insects are essential for the health and productivity of our grasslands and ranches. And as Dave Goulson told us this morning, urban areas can also provide preserves and safe spaces for high biodiversity. I'm Rella Abernathy, and I'm an ecological planner with the city of Boulder. And like many other cities, Boulder has parks and roadsides and paths and creek corridors. But we also have about 47,000 acres of open space, which includes grazing operations and farms, agricultural properties, natural areas. And so whether we're managing our urban parks or these natural areas or farms, we always try to keep in mind the broader ecosystem services that they provide and using biodiversity and ecological principles to manage not only pests, but to restore areas and keep them thriving as much as possible. So before we get started, we'd like to learn a little bit more about you. So we have a couple of polls for you, and Darren's going to bring up those polls now. And I'm not seeing them yet. Is anyone seeing them? Looks like it's about to go. Okay, so what is your area of land management? You can just use one word for this, or particular interest that brings you to this session. So you can either text your answer, or you can go to the website at the top of the screen and enter your answer. Yeah, it looks like we have some ecological restoration folks. People who work on prairies and in suburban areas, that's great. Watching to see if there's much more. Let's give you a few minutes to put in parks. State parks, it looks like. Oh, lots of different things. Ag, biodiversity management, xeriscaping, weed management. I'm glad to see the word soil in there because that's the most important part, native plants. So as you can see, we have like a really broad range of people and topics and interests, which is good because we have a broad range of speakers. And what's really important about all that is that all these lands, of course, are all interconnected. And what happens on an urban property, and once you get to the urban wildland interface, affects it and affects the interface to agriculture. So it's really important that we manage all of these spaces with the other spaces in mind, the other landscapes in mind. Okay, so let's go to the next poll question. We have a couple more for you. Okay, so there's a lot of choices here, but I really want you to think about this. So when you're thinking about installing pollinator habitat or implementing ecological friendly practices, what's a thing that you've considered one of your biggest obstacles? Is it cost, or is it you don't know where to start or how to get involved or what would be involved, or all the time it takes to plan and make changes, that there's not a decent demonstration site, you don't know which people information to trust as accurate sources, worried about your profits if you're a producer of some sort, or you don't really think it's needed, or you don't think it'll make a difference because the issues are too big. Yeah, it looks like for most people, cost is really the most significant piece. So hopefully as we're working and talking today with the panelists and your discussions afterward, we can brainstorm about some ways that we can implement these programs with cost-cutting measures. We're doing some of that in the city, which we can talk about later. But it looks like cost is really one of the biggest concerns, as well as wondering how to get started. Okay, we have one last poll question, and then we'll get started with our first panelist. And this one's another word to send. Okay, if costs weren't an issue or the other obstacles that you were thinking about, what would make you excited or motivated about transitioning to pollinator and ecological friendly practices? So we'll give you a few minutes to put your responses in. Yeah, birds. So as a lot of you know, birds are in incredible decline, some of our very common species. diversity, educating. And this is important for us really to keep in mind what the motivating factors are that keep us excited and hopeful. Yeah, and I'm glad to see climate in there since all these things are related, and the problems that cause these issues in the first place are the issues, like whether it's the way we manage our lands, urban lands or agricultural lands, are also the solutions. And we'll talk about a little bit of that in just a minute. Saving bees, community access. There's lots of really great things here. Yeah, and carbon sequestration is really important too. Beauty. Yeah, we have to remember how beautiful everything is, that we're surrounded by beauty and how important that is to keeping us motivated.